A few years ago, I wanted to play the hardest game. And that urge for that intensity, for real stakes, it led me through swamps and across tundra, through clandestine back corridors. Eventually, like many others, that urge to make it out alive, it became my hyperfixation. It brought me to where I am today. But to others, it's a genre that's overstayed its welcome. A year ago, I investigated the genre. Why so many complaints of yet another extraction shooter, considering there are so few you could actually play? Well, a year later, and I think that everything has changed. Sentiment has shifted. People get extraction shooters who never got the point of them before. That saturation the community used to complain about, I think it might actually be here. And yet the genre still hasn't reached its peak. Or has it? This is a living autopsy of extraction shooters. Are they really the future, or are they already in the past? You know, I always found the comparison of extraction shooters as the next Battle Royale trend a bit goofy. Battle Royale? It's a rule set. Last man standing. That's it. And extraction shooters are a bit more complex, to put it lightly. But despite every entry's different approach mechanically, there are only two, in my opinion, rules that define the genre. You enter a map and extract at a fixed location to survive, and if you die, you lose everything you brought in with you. Hence, why Helldivers or Deep Rock Galactic are not extraction shooters. But unlike Battle Royale, last man standing wins, those rules, enter a map, do something, and then leave, the game type, if you will. It isn't actually very much fun on its own. It's like asking, why do people love Souls-like games? And answering, because they're hard. There's just a lot more going on. And the proof of that is actually in what's changed in the last year. The biggest successes we've seen in the genre, namely Arc Raiders, soon to be released, are a far cry in basically every way from the genre's origins, thematically, visually, mechanically. Because if there was a formula, a set of mechanics for a good, successful mainstream extraction shooter, someone would have done it by now. There's no rule set to follow for how to make a good game in this genre. Or maybe there is. The tenets of extraction shooter design, as I coined them in last year's video, not features or mechanics, but philosophies that I personally believe are fundamental to a potentially successful game in the genre. And I'll be giving every game I've played a score, by the way. Firstly, as in, what's the point of this game? Now, hear me out here. The two games I believe have done this the best are Hunt Showdown and, this might surprise you, Arena Breakout Infinite. Hunt is the closest game in the whole genre to being a mode like Battle Royale. It's a bounty hunt. Enter map, kill boss, grab bounty, extract with bounty. This clear and defined win condition earns you money for weapons and consumables, as well as points to apply perks to your character. When you die, you lose that character. Rinse, repeat. Hunt is the best and, as of this video, the only fully released example of an objective-based extraction shooter. It's not about loot or quests. Every player fights over the same single individual goal every round to get out with the bounty. In contrast to a loot-based extraction shooter, which basically every other game in the genre falls under. The reason that I cite ABI here over Tarkov, its predecessor, has to do with its economy. Arena Breakout Infinite, unlike Tarkov, does not wipe, meaning the economy is a constant cycle of profit and loss based around map loot and PvP. You must risk huge amounts of money in order for any shot at making any, since good loot is locked behind high gear score playlists. Every other entry in the genre has a much more free-form approach. What you do, when, and why is so much more up to the player what their endgame is, and where you can find your wins and losses are much more random. But in this game, it's cut and dry. Get rich or die trying is the endgame. The endgame in Hunt isn't riches or good gear. Every weapon kills with a headshot. The cheapest weapons are some of the strongest and most reliable. And everyone has the same HP. Unlike Tarkov, the fun comes not from grinding, but from playing exactly how you want, from utility. Want to fan your revolver or catch unfired rounds? You need to win in order to do those things. The endgame in Hunt is the gameplay itself, the PvP, because playing it the way that you want is just so goddamn fun. Satisfying and well-designed surface-level gameplay, as in the game feel in the moment-to-moment. Hunt and Tarkov, I believe, still do this the best, I think. The constant actions you perform while traversing the map are just so incredibly satisfying. But Ark Raiders, a new contender, is the first game that I've played in the genre, where fighting PvE enemies, or the AI, was so engaging and satisfying, I look forward to it even now, maybe more than the player versus player encounters. Ark's procedural animation system and sound design are some of the best I've ever seen and heard, to be frank, and I've discussed them plenty on the channel, but suffice it to say this, you just want to play this game. And if I'm being honest, pretty much every other extraction shooter falls completely flat in this aspect. Because the surface level gameplay being engaging on its own, it makes not winning still an experience that you can look forward to, on your way, of course, to eventually chasing that killer round. And that matters, because in an extraction shooter, unlike a BR or a competitive FPS, just existing in the world, that's mostly what you're going to be doing. Which is why the visual language matters so much. A world where you feel immersed, that feels both natural and purposefully crafted. The more unique, the better. We've seen modern military settings, we've seen abandoned villages and shopping malls, and let's be honest, no one out there is gonna do it better than Tarkov did, so, don't even try. This is, in my opinion, Marathon's immense potential. While the in-game art treatment in public testing did not live up to expectations, and I made a whole video talking Marathon's art, by the way, so watch that if you want to know my opinion on it. The core visual style is still one of the strongest and most unique in the sci-fi space in ages. Whether Bungie optimizes all the juice out of the art style or lets it really shine in all of its specificity is yet to be seen. The reason that a strong, unique visual language matters so much, by the way, is similar to why surface-level gameplay does. You want players to be wowed by the world, to be curious about it, but you also want it to be satisfying, almost comforting to look at time and time again, and again, and again. Every round, the game needs to feel new, mysterious, and dangerous constantly, and yet you need players to feel right at home there too, once they're really dug in. Bringing us to the most interesting tenet of design, the embedding of the player within the game's world. A player must feel part of the world that they're playing in, and here's where Tarkov, father of the genre, still shows immense potential for the future. The ways that timed in-game events, live action filmed content, real-life alternate reality game puzzles and challenges, player-controlled progression, and in-game actions have been combined with the game's core written narrative and lore. It's completely immersed thousands of players all over the world in Tarkov's universe in a way that's honestly incredible, and it warrants an entire essay on its own. People outside of this community to this day probably have no idea how complex, intriguing, and deep the world of Tarkov goes. This idea, the ability for players in real life to feel that they are directly influencing and steering the world of the game in real time, while also uncovering its planned written narrative, its potential for a level of groundbreaking transmedia that I honestly find extremely exciting. Marathon started down this road quite successfully, by the way. Its launch announcement ARG was a masterclass, and I personally think that this kind of storytelling is, next to Tarkov, maybe only possible with lore and world building that goes as deep as Marathon's does. The ball is in their court, they really just have to execute. When real life and the game world blend, it makes the gameplay feel like it matters. And okay, let's walk it back for a second. What matters the most is the gameplay, namely, the balance of risk and reward. Of my tenets of design, possibly the most impossible to get right. Without getting in the weeds here, extraction shooters are about risk, about what you bring in and how much you can expect to gain. First off, inherently people will lose, and you must give players a way to just play for free if they get down to zero. You need to just be able to play the game. But give weak players too much of a chance. If you balance high-risk play out, what's the point? This is the biggest failing I see in many free-to-play exfil shooters, giving away too much stuff for free. And you need players to risk more, so that 1, people feel their grind is worth something, and 2, so that other players can come up big by defeating them. Rope a looting system and its economy into this equation, and you see how impossible this is to figure out? The importance of solo players being viable is a huge one too. Both Arc Raiders and Marathon showed us that. People want to play alone. They just do. And yes, I'm speaking for myself here. They don't want to feel forced into playing in a group for the sake of balance. And I mean, look at the originals here. Playing in a squad is almost a bigger risk in Tarkov because, well, your teammates aren't marked on your screen in any way. Communication is key in this game, and quite difficult, by the way.
There's someone here.
Where? That's me, it's me, you killed me.
You? What?
Yes, dude, I've been here the entire time.
What?
And squad filling with random players works in a game like Hunt inherently because, again, one objective, everyone's got the same goal. These are the kind of puzzles a game needs to consider at the start of development, not at the end. As is the last tenet that I defined a year ago, anti-cheat. When you risk everything, you want your risk to be worth it. Cheaters are a living, evolving reality in the game space. Developers considering cheating as a living reality, being open that they are aware of it, is always a good sign. Bungie de-rendering all other players when they aren't within line of sight, what they call fog of war, is a good example. And other devs are keeping things a bit closer to the chest, which I totally get. But remember, cheating isn't just about bragging rights, about these people being losers. There's a market for cheat devs in these kind of games. It's a battle that goes both ways, monetarily. And, well, as much as I hate to say it, it's all about money, right? Well, maybe not the be-all, end-all. But people don't tend to do things for free. And in reanalyzing the genre in the Big 25, I decided to add another tentative design to the list. A sustainable monetization model. Now, this might be a controversial one, but let's be honest with ourselves here. The days of buying a game for $30, $40 and playing it for 10 years are over. While maybe unintentional in the beginning, the reality is that extraction shooters are inherently tied to this idea of live service, an ever-evolving, updating, and sustaining game world. And that can be a great, even an amazing thing. The hype over a big update, seasonal events, but it costs. It costs a lot. How you're going to monetize a game for 5 or 10 years while you're developing it is going to be fundamental for any dev or publisher looking for popularity in this genre. You need to have a plan for how to keep the servers on in a way that feels fun for the community to support. While I can't speak on it in detail, some games have taken this reality into consideration even in the early stages of development. And honestly, I think that looking into the future, they need to. They need to consider everything. Because nailing a game in this genre, it's hard. Impossible, some might even say. The adage that I've been hearing for years, nothing will ever kill Tarkov besides Tarkov, maybe there's some truth to it. But to reiterate the question, has the genre peaked? Is it really the future, the next battle royale, or are we asking all the wrong questions? Because I think, and hear me out here, that the genre, the extraction mode, as people came to know it in 2019 to 2020, say, I think it's already dead. Escape from Tarkov itself, the game which first brought attention to this idea of an FPS where you lose everything when you die, it's already moving in a different direction, a bigger focus on story, on complex role-playing MMO mechanics, and long-term progression. The days of the game being about a PvP Chad running in and filling your bag with loot, they're kinda over. AAA, of course, are still crafting their attempts. Some we've seen like Marathon, Arc Raiders, others like PUBG Black Budget is still an enigma. There were rumors of a Fortnite exfil shooter. Black Ops 7's post-campaign mode I personally think is going to be another shot at the genre. They all have some kind of potential and lack thereof. But the greatest potential, in my opinion, it lies where it all began. With the indies. The biggest threat to Beautiful Light is, unfortunately, its pace of development. It's a small team with huge ideas. They're aware of this. They're ambitious as they are intelligent, and I truly hope they can pull it off. Because this game combines my tenets of design in a way more purposeful and creative than almost anything in the industry. satisfying and engaging surface-level gameplay elements which allow the player to diegetically and immersively interact with the game world directly, embedding the player and player character as one within it, all through purpose-built systems supporting a larger, clearly defined, objective-based gameplay loop. Oh yeah, and it's, dripping with style. There's stuff in the works here that's nothing short of brilliant. This game will have a fully realistic Unix shell operating system emulated on its in-game computers that you'll be able to literally, realistically hack and code on. This is the kind of groundbreaking attention to detail and passion the devs of Escape from Tarkov brought to ballistics or gear systems years ago. When I talk potential, this is what I mean. If you've never heard of Hunger, you will soon. I've been holding off on talking about this game because it warrants its entire own video. A complete deep dive on the world, gameplay, and development of Hunger from days of my conversations with the devs, dozens of hours of my own time playing it, including my own recorded gameplay, which will be coming very soon. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're subscribed. But to put it simply real quick, this is the most unique take so far. So different that I hesitate to even say it falls in the same genre. All from the original team behind Hell Let Loose, by the way. Hunger represents what I truly think the future of the genre could be, mechanically evolving away from military simulation or survival, taking influence from other adjacent genres, chasing the same fantasy, the same emotions, but with an utterly different execution, and of course, an extremely unique tone and setting on top. But what if originality, if complexity, isn't always the answer? So this one comes a bit out of left field for me. Not an upcoming game, you can play it right now for about $5, and I highly suggest that you do if you haven't, because this game kind of blew my mind. Whole tells you nothing. There's no tutorial, barely any HUD. You can move, interact, reload, chamber, and fire your weapon. That's it. It's an extraction shooter, no doubt. You enter a location, explore by sight, no map, fight enemies who also fight each other, and eventually find an escape through the extract. And I found more excitement and intrigue in 2 hours of playing this game than I had in days playing AAA exfil shooters while writing this video. Whole demonstrates that simplicity, in tandem with utter opacity, the fear of what's around the corner, can give a player not the mechanics, the complexity or breadth, but the feeling that extraction shooters are all about. Because here's the problem with the industry. Publishers look at a game mode like Battle Royale, like Extraction. They say, we want something successful like this. So they take this or that mechanic, they copy it, they interpret it their own way, they smooth it out, and then wonder, why isn't our game hitting like this one with the same mechanics did? It's why this video hasn't focused on the plethora of new mechanics, events, and methods of execution various devs have brought to the genre. Because when we look at how extraction shooters and how to evolve them, we need not answer what makes one of these games good. We need to be asking, what feelings does this genre give us that other games don't? This fear and anticipation yet draw and yearning, what's around that corner? The strangeness of the unknown. The feeling of, I need to get out now. And eventually the satisfaction that comes with learning the spaces, the corners, the angles, completing the puzzle in your head to do another run. Whole taught me that how you actually get there doesn't matter. Instead, starting with a feeling and asking, how do we get players to feel this way? It's what the pioneers of the genre were doing all those years ago. And it's why, in my opinion, the genre, at least the way that we came to know it, is dead. Because we've already been here. And now it's time for the next run. Will extraction shooters ever reach the heights of the Fortnites or Warzones of the 2010s? Well, again, we're asking the wrong question. Because extraction shooters aren't actually a genre, a game mode like Battle Royale. They're a feeling, a vibe. Rather than one mode becoming dominant in the industry like BR was, the extraction shooter evolved in a way that BR never could. It spawned new genres, influenced everything from massive AAA FPS games to indie top-down adventures to action RPGs. I think people still do want that fantasy of I need to get out. In new ways, in new contexts, they'll get it. And while I have my feelings, my ratings for these upcoming titles, I expect these impressions can and will change after these games have had enough time to really sink in. maybe one of them will surpass those founders' original reach, but they won't do it through developers focusing on any one thing that's already been done. So if you're making an extraction shooter, you need to know the space, to know your surroundings. You need to tread carefully sometimes and be daring and aggressive in others. You need to come equipped in your own specific, curated way. But stay adaptable and be ready for anything. And ultimately, you might have to get a little bit lucky. You know, looking at it, making a successful game in this genre, it's kind of a bit like extracting successfully in one. I'm Riloe, and I hope you found this interesting. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will catch you very soon.